When you open your eyes each morning, you stand at the edge of a battlefield unseen. Before you is not simply another set of hours, but a canvas upon which your choices will write a story. The world rushes in, full of noise, demands, and distractions, but in those first moments you hold a rare gift, the power to decide how the day will unfold. The first act of the morning is the first act of the soul, for in that quiet and fragile moment when sleep releases its hold, the spirit stands at a threshold. Before the rush of voices, before the weight of duty, before the tide of demands, there is a single choice that begins to shape the hours that will follow. Many imagine that mornings are neutral, that they are simply the natural stirring of the body back to motion, but in truth they are sacred, for what the heart clings to in its first waking moments often sets the direction of the entire day. If the first act is distraction, grasping for the noise of the world, then the soul is set adrift before it even finds its footing. Anxiety seeps in through the cracks of attention, and the day is colored by a hurried restlessness. But if the first act is turned toward what is higher, a word of prayer, a moment of gratitude, a thought of purpose, then the soul is fortified before it steps into the battle. Just as the first stone laid determines the shape of the building, the first thought embraced gives form to the life of the day. There is a hidden power in beginnings. The runner knows that the first stride matters. The painter knows that the first stroke directs the canvas. In the same way, the soul that lifts itself to truth at dawn carries a strength invisible but real. It does not mean the day will be free of hardship, but it means the heart has already chosen its ground. When storms arise, it does not flail without anchor, because the anchor was placed at the very start. To neglect this first act is to allow the soul to drift, but to guard it is to claim the day before the world has a chance to steal it. The morning is more than a time of day, it is a symbol of renewal. Yesterday may have been filled with failure, but the soul that chooses rightly at dawn has already declared that it will not be chained by the past. Each rising sun whispers of forgiveness, of fresh beginnings, of strength given anew. And so the first act of the soul must not be passive. It must be intentional, for without intention, the mind is like a city without gates, open to every intrusion. The first act says, "Here is my allegiance, here is my direction, here is the one I trust." Consider how easily the day bends when the morning is squandered. A heart that begins in complaint soon finds complaint in everything. A mind that begins in apathy soon finds no reason to rise above mediocrity. But a soul that begins in gratitude discovers that even burdens are blessings in disguise, even trials are occasions for growth, even interruptions are invitations to patience. The lens through which we view the day is polished in the first minutes after waking, and with it the smallest act can either darken the whole horizon or fill it with light. It is not greatness we need in that first act, but sincerity. A whispered prayer, a gentle word of thanks, a moment of stillness can become a fortress for the entire day. For the soul does not need to accomplish everything in its beginning, but only to direct itself rightly. A compass does not move the traveler, but it points the way, and if it points true at the start, the journey, though long, leads toward the right end. The first act of the morning is therefore a sacred trust. It is the planting of a seed whose fruit may not be seen until evening, yet it quietly shapes everything in between. To waste it is to surrender a treasure without even knowing its worth, but to honor it is to enter the day not as a prisoner of circumstance, but as a steward of time. And when the evening comes, the soul that began with wisdom may look back with peace, knowing that it chose well at the very beginning, and that choice made all the difference. Order at dawn protects you from disorder at dusk, for the way a day begins often foreshadows the way it ends. Morning is the architect of evening. If the first bricks are laid carelessly, the structure of the day will lean under the weight of time until it finally collapses into frustration, regret, and wasted hours. Yet when order is embraced at the start, the mind and heart are prepared to meet the challenges ahead with clarity, strength, and patience. The chaos that so often consumes the evening is rarely born in the evening itself. It is the fruit of neglect in the morning. Order at dawn is not about rigid schedules or mechanical routines, but about aligning the soul with what truly matters before the noise of the world takes control. It means placing first things first, quiet reflection before endless chatter, gratitude before complaint, purpose before distraction. Without this ordering, the day easily slips into reaction, where one is tossed about by interruptions, emails, arguments, and demands. But with order, the soul carries a framework that absorbs the shocks of the day without crumbling. It is not that difficulties vanish, but that they meet a spirit already fortified. Think of a traveler who sets out on a long journey. If he begins without direction, wandering aimlessly at the start, by evening he may find himself lost in places he never intended to go. But if at dawn he studies the map, fixes his course, and sets his feet with intention, then even when the road is hard, his path remains true. So it is with the soul. Disorder in the morning is like setting out without a compass. One may feel busy, even frantic, but the destination is confusion. Order at the start ensures that even when storms come, one is not cast adrift. This order is not limited to the outward arrangement of tasks, though that has its value. It is deeper, the ordering of the inner life, to set priorities, to silence what is false, to remember who you are and why you exist. When this is done at dawn, the day has a center of gravity, a still point around which all else may turn. Without it, the smallest irritation magnifies into anger, the smallest delay into despair. But with it, the heart learns to place each thing in its proper place, and refuses to be mastered by what is trivial. Consider how many evenings are filled with weariness not because the work was too great, but because the spirit was scattered. Time was lost chasing shadows. Energy was drained serving lesser gods of distraction. Peace was stolen by worries that were never ordered in the light of morning truth. But where dawn begins with order, dusk brings a harvest of peace. The work may still be unfinished, the burdens still real, but there is a quiet assurance that the day was not wasted. And that assurance carries rest into the night. Order at dawn also guards the soul from despair. For when the day begins with meaning, the soul is reminded that life is not simply a cycle of survival, but a gift with purpose. Each task, no matter how small, is placed in a larger story. Even the mundane becomes meaningful when framed in the right order. It is the difference between scattered notes and a symphony, the same pieces, but arranged with intention and thus transformed into beauty. The one who establishes order at dawn is like a builder who lays foundations on rock. The winds of the day will blow, but the structure will stand. The evening may bring fatigue, but not futility, weariness, but not waste. Disorder at dusk is rarely accidental. It is the final harvest of seeds sown at dawn. To sow order in those first moments is to claim the day for what is good, true, and lasting. And when night falls, the soul can rest in the knowledge that though the day was imperfect, it was not aimless. Its beginning shaped its end, and its end was peace. Gratitude at sunrise shapes the vision of the day. For the posture of the heart in those first moments after waking determines how every experience will be interpreted. Gratitude is more than a polite acknowledgement of blessings. It is a lens through which the world is seen. When one begins the day with gratitude, the common becomes extraordinary. The ordinary is recognized as gift, and even burdens are reinterpreted as opportunities for growth. Without gratitude, the eyes focus only on what is lacking, and the day becomes a landscape of complaint. With gratitude, the same day becomes a field rich with hidden treasures waiting to be discovered. To rise in the morning and immediately give thanks, even for something as simple as breath, is to declare that life itself is worth cherishing. Gratitude at sunrise turns the mind away from scarcity and directs it toward abundance. It reminds the soul that the world is not empty, but full, not hostile, but purposeful, not meaningless, but charged with divine presence. Such a perspective does not deny hardship, but it ensures that hardship does not eclipse all else. A grateful spirit can endure difficulty without collapsing, because it knows that even in the midst of pain, there remains goodness to be seen. Gratitude transforms the smallest details of the morning into sources of strength. The warmth of light streaming through a window, the sound of a bird's song, the comfort of a familiar place, these are not trivial when received with thankfulness. They become reminders that life is layered with grace. When one begins the day noticing such things, the heart is trained to continue noticing them throughout the day. It is as though gratitude teaches the eyes to see clearly, while ingratitude blinds them. Two people may walk the same road, but one finds only irritation in every delay, while the other finds wonder even in interruptions. The difference is not in circumstance but in vision, and that vision is shaped by gratitude at dawn. There is also a quiet humility in beginning the day with gratitude. To give thanks is to acknowledge dependence, to recognize that life is sustained not by our own power alone, but by gifts we could not manufacture. This humility guards the soul from pride and despair alike. Pride says, "I deserve all I have," while despair says, "I have nothing worth rejoicing in." Gratitude rejects both, confessing instead that all is gift, and therefore all is worth cherishing. A grateful morning creates a humble heart, and a humble heart finds joy where an entitled heart finds none. Consider how gratitude shifts the tone of the day's challenges. A difficult task faced with complaint becomes heavier with every step. The same task faced with gratitude becomes an opportunity to exercise patience, resilience, or skill. Gratitude reframes hardship as training, not punishment, as purpose, not futility. This shift of vision protects the soul from bitterness, which so often poisons the evening. Gratitude sown at sunrise produces peace harvested at sunset. The absence of gratitude, on the other hand, distorts everything. Without it, blessings go unnoticed, relationships become burdens, and the day's labors feel empty. The morning that begins with grumbling casts a shadow over the hours, making joys invisible and sorrows unbearable. Gratitude breaks that shadow, allowing light to shine even in difficult paths. It gives the soul the strength to endure by teaching it to see what is good alongside what is hard. Thus, gratitude at sunrise is not a minor discipline, but a safeguard for the whole day. It is the practice of shaping vision, of tuning the soul to see rightly before the world presents its demands. A grateful beginning does not guarantee ease, but it guarantees perspective, and perspective is what determines whether the day feels wasted or meaningful. At dusk, when the body is weary, the grateful soul can still smile, not because everything was perfect, but because it saw beauty even in imperfection. Gratitude has a way of turning every day into a gift, and that vision changes not only the hours of the day, but the very heart of the one who lives them. The smallest choices at daybreak echo through eternity, for what seems insignificant in the early hours often sets in motion consequences far greater than we can see. A single decision at dawn, to pray or to ignore, to give thanks or to grumble, to choose discipline or to indulge, does not vanish when made. It leaves an imprint shaping character, directing thought, and altering the course of the day in ways that ripple outward into life itself. We often imagine that greatness is forged only in grand moments, but it is the small, hidden choices made when no one is watching that build the foundation upon which all visible deeds rest. The morning is like the striking of a note at the beginning of a song. One tone may seem small, yet it sets the key in which the entire melody unfolds. A soul that begins in harmony with truth will find its day arranged with purpose, while a soul that begins in dissonance will hear that discord echo through every hour. The choice may feel small, to rise at once or to linger, to welcome silence or to reach for distraction, but each directs the soul toward order or disorder, strength or weakness. The eternal weight of these choices lies not in their size but in their direction. It is in the nature of beginnings to magnify. A seed is small, yet it becomes a tree that outlives the one who planted it. In the same way, the smallest act of discipline at dawn, reading a line of truth, pausing for prayer, speaking a word of gratitude, grows into habits that shape a lifetime, and a lifetime shapes eternity. For character is not formed in one grand gesture, but in countless small decisions repeated over time, most of them made in the ordinary hours of morning. To neglect these choices is to neglect the shaping of the soul itself. Even the eternal truths of faith remind us of the power of small beginnings. A mustard seed of faith can move mountains. A cup of cold water given in kindness is not forgotten. A gentle word spoken in love outlasts anger. Likewise, the choice to align the heart rightly at daybreak may seem unnoticed by the world, yet it is never unnoticed by eternity. For eternity is not distant. It begins here, and each choice draws us closer to its fulfillment or further from it. The smallest choices at daybreak also direct the heart toward mastery or slavery. The one who chooses to rise with purpose gains mastery over the day, while the one who yields to indifference becomes slave to circumstance. These decisions, though seemingly trivial, train the soul in either freedom or bondage. A single morning given to complaint trains the heart to expect disappointment. A single morning given to gratitude trains the heart to find joy. Multiply these mornings, and you multiply a destiny. The echo of the smallest act grows louder with repetition, until it becomes the voice that guides a life. There is a solemn responsibility in this truth, but also a profound encouragement, for it means that no choice is wasted, no act too small to matter. To begin the morning with a whispered prayer is to touch eternity, to align oneself with something far greater than the fleeting hours ahead. And in this alignment, the day finds meaning, the soul finds strength, and life finds direction. By contrast, to dismiss the morning as trivial is to miss the doorway through which eternity first greets us each day. Thus the dawn is not merely a routine, it is an invitation to sow seeds that will outlast the day, to make choices whose echoes will sound not only at dusk, but beyond the span of earthly time. Each morning asks us silently, will you choose light or shadow, gratitude or complaint, discipline or distraction? And the way we answer carries farther than we can imagine. At the close of life, it may be the sum of these small choices that reveals who we truly are. For eternity is written not only in the great deeds of history, but in the unseen choices of ordinary mornings, where the soul decides again and again whom it will serve.